evening, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to us tonight.
Pretty simple procedure here, Al. So the board members are going to ask you questions around the table. We're going to try to get each one of these done in 15 minutes. And essentially what they're looking to do, there's 8 candidates, so they're going to pick 2 out of the 8 after further discussion tonight, and that would be something we'd move forward on Thursday if we can find candidates that they want to move forward with at the village board on Thursday night. So all the questions are, you've been down this road before, so it should be fairly, we're going to start with Peter and work our way around the board here.
Okay.
Welcome again, Al. Keep in mind, as David pointed out, we want to try to limit this to 15 minutes, so are you playing Sergeant at Arms?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell the panel a little bit about yourself, where you reside in the village, things you like to do in Hortonville, and why you would like to be a member of the village board.
Well, I live on Lakeview Avenue, have since 1979. Been on and off this board since the mid-80s. Also on the Lake District Board, which I spent time with. Try to volunteer in different places that I can. Spend a lot of time on the lake during the summer. I want to be on the board to try to help as the majority of the residents of the village, and what I hope to do is be able to make my decisions as to that which will help the majority of the people.
How many years did you serve on as a board member, a trustee? Do you recall how many terms?
Roughly about 20 years, but it's been off and on, so the exact number I don't know for sure, but it's roughly about 20 years that I've spent on the board since the mid-80s.
Okay, as a village board trustee?
Yes.
Not to include being village president, correct?
Right.
So that's 10 terms. So, okay. So you've seen the village grow quite a bit in the 20-plus year, 22-year period that you served, either as a trustee or village president.
Yes.
And you're happy with the growth? You're happy with the progress the village has made in that period of time?
Yes, I'm quite happy, and especially what we've done in the last several years.
So you've taken an active part over that period of time as a village trustee to improve the quality of life for the residents in Hortonville, and helped in developing commercial properties, and there have been a number of those that have sprung up in the last 4 or 5 years. So you've taken an active part in that?
Yes.
Okay.
We should probably move on now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm next. Hortonville is often measured on successes or failures. What are examples of a success and or a shortfall you have observed in Hortonville this past year?
Well, the successes would be with what we have for residential growth, and also some of our commercial growth that we've had. A downfall, probably because of those successes, that we've run out of room for industrial land for anybody that would want to come in. I guess that's about all I can really think of at this time. But
Okay,
Okay.
Thank you.
Question 3, Al, is what is your vision for the village of Hortonville and where do you see it going?
my vision is to see it to keep growing, so we can maybe do something about having to raise taxes and sewer rates on a regular basis, because I've seen that a lot over the years I've spent here, that of taxes and the sewer and water rates going up, and a lot of it has to do with us standing still for too many years. But with the growth, that should help either keep it flat or maybe even have it go down.
Where do you see us going?
I guess I'm not quite sure of that question.
Do you feel we will have more growth? Do you,
The way things have looked the last few years, yes, I do see us to continue growing. Unless things change here in the next couple of years, I would think Hortonville will grow quite significantly.
thank you, Al. Jim, you have number 4.
Just a black,
Not the red.
just a black. Jim.
Okay. Morals, ethics, and transparency all play into public government. Explain to the village board why these traits are important to good governance.
With the morals and transparency, I mean, if you're not truthful and open to all the residents, I mean, then it doesn't, it plays real bad for all members of the board, even if just one member is not truthful and open to everybody, because it plays back to the whole board. And with those morals and that, and transparency is to make sure that everybody knows that you're doing what is best for the village, and also that if they have any complaints as to what is happening, that they are free to come in and discuss it with any of us, or even at an open meeting or individually, and know that they will get a straight answer.
All right, Meredith, next. If you received $1 million grant to use for the village in any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why? It's $1 million question.
Yeah. I guess what we would need with that $1 million is to, well, Public Works needs some upgrades that are needed and have been put off for quite a few years because of lack of funding. And it would also be kind of nice to be able to put up an area that's just a senior center that could be dedicated just to seniors, but also be available to others that might, you know, want to use it for some other reason. You know, as an example, like if we wanted this meeting tomorrow in courts here, you could have held it in that area. But it would be more for the municipal areas and to, you know, help out with all our citizens, both in the Public Works and the senior citizen area.
Al, I got number 6, and I'm glad I didn't have to answer these before I voted for myself. So anyway, but hypothetical question. If you were seated with your family or friends, ready to eat a meal, and frustrated or disturbed resident of Hortonville approaches you with a concern, what course of action do you take?
I would discuss it with them and try to handle their situation in whatever way is possible, whether it is that, you know, try to make them happy if I can, or if because of their situation it just can't be, also to try to well, it actually did come up in one situation. I had a resident call me that was upset. I just listened to him and tried to explain to him what the situation was and where it was headed, and whether that person was pleased with my answers or not, I don't know, because he really didn't say, but I did try to calm him down, letting him know what the situation was and where it was headed, and be totally honest with him as to where it was going. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
you know, like I said, whether it actually didn't make him happier, he seemed calmer at the end of the conversation than what he did at the start. So. But I would take the time to discuss it with that person and take as much time as needed to try to bring forth as to what is happening with their situation.
Okay, I'll take the last one here. You have about 4 minutes remaining, Al. Make a lasting impression. Use the remaining time to tell the village board why you would be the best choice to fill this vacancy.
I think with my experience and dedication that I've had to the village over the last roughly 40 years, that I think I could do what is in the best interest of the village and work with the board and all the residents here in town and hopefully keep the village going on the track that it's been going in the last several years, and keep everything as optimistic as it has been for the last few years.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all we have. Any other questions or comments? Or? Okay. You are welcome, Al. I mean, we have 7 other candidates.
Well, my granddaughter is at a track meet over here with the
Okay.
middle school, so I'm headed over there and stand in the cold and the rain.
Okay.
Have a really good time.
Yeah, right.
And I thank you again for taking the time.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Al.
Al. Thanks, Al.
Just remember the camera's on during this time too, in between, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah.
You know, question number 6. There's a big difference between frustrated and disturbed.
True.
Disturbed, that's an interesting way to.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Maybe
I'd like that
drive-
struck
maybe-
from this.
Maybe just not even say disturbed.
Yeah, I think we should really just strike it.
Unhappy,
I
unhappy.
agree.
Yeah.
He's
Just a
unhappy.
frustrated.
Dan,
So who has 6?
Dan.
Dan, why don't you leave it up to Dave here, but
What do we got?
Wondering if we can strike one word out there.
Sure.
Whoever brought it up.
strike one word out of number 6.
It's a rock group.
Yep, okay.
Big difference.
Yep,
Judgment
Okay.
call, you know.
absolutely. Have a seat, sir.
Hello.
So this is Clay Heisey. Heisey, is that spelled? Or,
Heis.
Heis, okay. You are our second candidate of the day. The village board, as you see by names here, we're looking to fill one vacancy. So what they're gonna do is take a stab at you going around in the circle, ask a question. You do have 15 minutes. I'm kind of the sergeant at arms, so I'm gonna keep me sure we're on a proper time. And then I'll ask the final question. And then at the end of this, you are welcome if you wanna listen to the rest of them after you. There's 6 more after you. You can go on your way. Essentially what they're trying to do after this, we're gonna go into closed group or closed session. They're gonna have a discussion. They're gonna hopefully come to a consensus that 2 of the people would move forward. At that point, it would go to Thursday night's board where further discussion, it would go to a formal vote. So
Okay.
it's kind of a lengthy process here, but when you're ready, sir.
Welcome, Clay. I'm Peter Olk, and I'm going to ask you the first question. Tell the panel a bit about yourself, where you reside in Hortonville, and things you like to do in Hortonville, and why you would like to be a member of the village board.
I live on Brookwood Drive. We, my wife and I, moved there. We actually built the house ourselves 20 years ago. So that's where we live. What do we like to do in Hortonville?
Yeah.
Well, obviously we like to live here and raise our family here. And then what was the third question? What would I?
What you like to do in Hortonville, and why you would like to be a member of the village board.
Well, I guess why I'd like to be on the village board, I guess I feel like everyone needs to do something. Well, wherever I'm going to live, I'm going to be involved with my community. And I want to make it better. And I felt like, well, this is an opportunity to do that. I did run about 10 years ago, and it was close. I think I lost by just a handful of votes. I felt like at that time it was something I had time to do, and I was ready to do it. And I think I ran again a couple of years later, lost again, and I thought, well, okay, it's not meant to be. So I just got involved with other things.
So you didn't ask for a recount?
No.
All right, just
No.
trying to throw a little livelihood in there.
Yeah, no, so when I was, one of my neighbors called me and said, hey, I threw your name in there. I thought, okay, well, I'll give it a shot and see. But I sit around with my kids. We talk about it all the time. What would we do? What if we could change things in Hortonville? What would you do? Where would you? And we have got all kinds of ideas, and so.
Have you ever run for any other office before? In
Yeah,
any other community?
Tracy. Oh, in another community?
Yeah.
No, this is. When I moved here, I was just in my early 20s, so
Okay.
This is where I've lived for the last 20 years, so.
Okay.
Late 20s.
That's all I have.
Okay, I have number 2. Hortonville is often measured on successes or failures. What are examples of a success or a shortfall you have observed in Hortonville during the past year?
Well, I guess I don't know how involved you were, but I thought that I was on that committee to put the new stadium in. I thought that was a big success. A shortfall, I was actually thinking about this, and I thought, is it good to say this or not? But what the heck. I think we're spread thin. I think when we try to do things, I think of like Chocolate Fest. I thought that was a great idea, but I just think we, the mark of a good business is you do one thing and you do it well, and you build on that. And I felt like Chocolate Fest, we were trying to do everything. And I thought, boy, if we would just focused on chocolate, just focused on that, in later years we could have expanded that. So sometimes I think we're too thin. We try things, but we just don't have enough. I don't know, we just don't have enough to focus on the one thing and do it well. Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm. Yep, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3 I have, and what is your vision for the village of Hortonville, and where do you see it going?
Well, I guess if I was driving the train, I would want to see the things that we have I would try to do the best I could with what I had, with what we got, and I would try to grow. So take what you have and make it to be the best you can and try to grow. So I would try to improve, downtown, or I would try to improve the lake. I've often thought if we could get some trails around the lake, that would draw in families, so then you would grow. You would improve the lake, families would come, and then you would grow. incentivize businesses to come here. We've got industrial parks, let's fill them up, so you're using what you got and then you grow. So I guess that's my vision, to just use everything we have to the best of our ability and grow.
Okay, thank you.
So morals, ethics, and transparency all play into public government. Explain to the village board why these traits are important to good governance.
Morals and ethics are important because it keeps us out of the news. I mean they are really. I mean, I guess that was kind of a smart alecky answer, but we're all adults. We all know what happens when you're corrupt here, right? You don't want to operate that way. I have 4 businesses. I can't operate them that way. You know, it seems like it's very obvious to me why that's important. Why morals and ethics are important. You'll get caught if you're not, and there will be a penalty for it. That was your question?
That's the question.
That's the question.
Transparency yet also.
Why? I mean, it's like saying to me, why is it important to obey the rules? Well, you'll get in trouble. There's constantly, you'll get hurt. You know, you can go to jail or you can get hurt. That's why it's important to obey the rules.
Okay.
All right, next
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, that's fine.
Unless you have more to expand on that. No?
I don't know if you're fishing for more or.
No, I mean,
Or not,
there's, every one of these questions is pinpointed. There's underlying things that I've identified what they're looking for.
Okay.
Okay, and some of these questions I didn't write, I took them from like a League of Municipalities or, so there's underlying agendas that might be portrayed. So some of these questions could have been answered very snobbishly. You know, it's a test of character. It's, is there an agenda? Is there an underlying message they're trying to portray? Do they understand what morals and ethics are? Some people don't.
Here, let me take another stab at answering that. I'll just say what I tell my kids. The values that I teach my kids, I always told them, these things will come back to serve you later in life. These values you're learning now, you don't know it, you don't get it, but when you get older, they'll actually serve you and they'll put you in a better position. So that's why it's important.
Okay.
If you received $1 million grant to use for the village in any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
$1 million. I think I would probably try to do something with that lake. I think that's our biggest asset. I think that would draw families. I might try to do something with downtown to help. You know, I like, you guys probably know Grace and Jane at Alley Cat. I like that some young people with some energy came in and fixed up a business. So I might try to do something to incentivize those kinds of people, those driven people, to come in here, get property, fix it up, and run a business.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Danny Jedlow.
Hi.
Hypothetical question. If you were seated with your family and friends, ready to eat a meal, and a frustrated resident of Hortonville approaches you with a concern, what course of action would you take?
I guess I'd listen. If there was something I could tell the person to give them some insight, I would tell them, and then I would probably come to the board and discuss it, and then get back to them.
Okay. I got the final question. You have about 6 minutes left in your interview. Make a lasting impression. Use the remaining time to tell the village board why you would be the best choice to fill this vacancy.
Oh, I don't know. I'm just interested in helping. I'm just interested in getting involved. You may have someone come in here that blows your socks off, and if you do, hire them. I don't have any silver bullets or any magic up my sleeve. I just want to be involved and want to do my part and help. So if you want someone that's going to come, be involved and participate and do the work, I'll do it. I won't come and just sit there and go through the motions. I mean, I'll speak up and say what I'm thinking and try to give you my best, but I'm also really bad at interviews. Yeah.
Well, that's why you own 4 businesses. You give the interviews instead of taking them.
Yeah.
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 No, that's fine. A lot of what we ask today is just general perception questions, a little bit of thought process. Putting you in a chair, oftentimes you get a lot of body chemistry. You can read a lot in a short time, 15 minutes. So, again, it's an open canvas. There's going to be 6 other applicants that will be either in this room yet tonight or via phone call in the next hour and a half. You're more than welcome to sit and listen to their answers if you want to. It is an open session.
Yeah.
Our agenda is going to be, we're going to have a closed session discussion afterwards tonight. They're going to try to narrow down to 2 if that's possible, and then we're going to move forward from there. So either way, we'll be in touch with you one way or the other. Is there any other comments you want to make to the board?
No, I would just encourage you to find the right person.
I have a quick follow-up. Didn't want to burn time at the beginning because you ran out. The 4 businesses, what do you do?
Have you ever heard of Woodcraft?
Mm-hmm.
We own Appleton, Indy, St. Louis, and Oregon.
Okay.
So I guess it's one business, but you have to structure it with, so
Okay.
each business has to own each market, so that's what I do. That's what me and my wife do. We run those.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Clay.
Thank you.
Yep.
No, it's perfect. I usually have one of those.
All right, so we have Luke Abbott. So Luke, you are the 3rd out of 8 in our little procedure here today.
Awesome.
15 minutes, we're gonna give you to discuss some questions here with the village board.
All right.
Our goal would be to take 8 people down to 2, potentially put that in front of the village board on Thursday night. If it comes to a formal vote, one person would then be put in the position of village trustee.
Sure.
So after this session tonight, you are welcome to listen to what everybody else says afterwards.
Okay.
You don't have to. It's gonna be the exact same questions. Everybody's getting asked the same questions. It's a lot of perception, how you answer, some
Certainly.
hypotheticals. Yeah, I think we'll go from there.
Fire away.
Luke,
Yes,
welcome.
thank you.
First question, tell the panel a bit about yourself, where you reside in Hortonville, things you'd like to do in Hortonville, and why you would like to be a member of the village board.
Certainly. So I live on Barrett Street near Bethlehem Church. I actually fixed up a house here in town back in 2014 and 2015. Built a big garage up there, and recently got married in October. My wife also moved to town. We want to stick around and have family here. I also go to Bethlehem on occasion, although I'm a member at St. Paul's and Appleton, so I do have some religious affiliation with the community. I also have been living in the village for 12 years. I moved out here when I got my job at Pierce back in 2007, And well, as far as why I'd like to be on the village board, personally, I think it's like really great when young men and women can be involved in local politics. And I think this is a great opportunity to potentially do that. I also want to be part of discussions and decisions that will continue to benefit everybody downtown as well as in the business park. And I'd like it to see more village residents, because then we can have a bigger tax base and have more opportunities within the village and just be part of discussions and decisions, like I said, that would contribute towards that. I like to volunteer too. This is definitely something new. I've been involved in business basically. I work at Oshkosh Defense currently, worked 9 years at Pierce. And this is just something that I would like to do for my own personal development and also a way to give back to the community as well. And those are some of the reasons I'd like to be on the village board.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay. And number 2, Hortonville is often measured on successes or failures. What are examples of a success and or a shortfall you have observed in Hortonville this past year?
Well, it seems as though we have a lot of new residents moving to town with the subdivisions on both sides of town. Well, I guess as far as failures, I don't really have an agenda or like a list of grievances or anything. It's just like I want to be able to, find compromises and make good decisions so that everybody can have a bright outlook here. I want to see a strong community, and that's really my main motivation. I don't really have, in this last year, things have been pretty quiet in town in my opinion. And I'd like to see us all keep working together to keep that going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Luke, what are your visions for the village of Hortonville, and where do you see it going?
Well, I think it seems like everybody's moving west to Appleton nowadays. So, Hortonville's maybe like what Greenville was 15, 20 years ago. So I think we should be ready for more people moving out here, and that's kind of the vision that I see. It's definitely going to grow, assuming we don't have any great recessions or anything like that. I think it's great that we have community days around here. I've also I've seen we've had parades, and I've put my old car in the parade. So I like to be participating in the community, and I also like to patronize all the local businesses as well.
Thank you.
Okay. So, number 4, morals, ethics, and transparency all play into public government. Explain to the village board why these traits are important to good governance.
People want to be able to trust the people that are running their town or village. It's just at the end of the day, it's important to tell the truth and do things with a pure motivation at the end of the day. Because I genuinely do care about the village. And I think if you care and you're focused on it, that what you do and the decisions you make and the relationships that you build, I believe the community will see that. And if they if they see that somebody's motivated and doing the right things on behalf of the village residents, it's just going to contribute to an overall stronger community.
Thank you.
All right. Luke, if you received $1 million grant to use for the village in any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
That's a good question. Well, if there was maybe some potential to leverage it into attracting new businesses to the area for more local employment, I think that would be great. I don't know if there's any corporations or small businesses looking to expand in our area, but I would want to perhaps incentivize that. Obviously, we'd want to have some return on that. I'd like to use it in whatever way possible to promote economic improvement.
Thank you.
6th question, hypothetical one. If you were seated with your family or friends, ready to eat a meal, and a frustrated resident of Hortonville approaches you with a concern, what course of action do you take?
I would listen to them and hear them out. That's something I've learned even working at Pierce and Oshkosh Defense. Sometimes you have your day-to-day things, but when there's a priority, you gotta be able to stop and listen and acknowledge the situation and make time for that village resident in this particular instance. You know, I want to help people.
Okay. I get the last one.
Go for it.
Okay. We are way ahead of schedule already, so
Sorry.
you
You're
actually have till the
talking too
45
fast.
minute. No, you're fine. We started you 2 minutes earlier, so you do have 10 minutes remaining. So the final question is, make a lasting impression. Use the remaining time to tell the village board why you would be the best choice to fill this vacancy.
So I'm sure like a lot of the candidates would probably do a really great job, and I'm sure they all love the village. I did try to actually run for the village board back in January. I did collect all the signatures. I went around to my neighborhood and talked to all my neighbors. I got almost 30 signatures, but I got hung up on a technicality on the 72-hour extension because I had Sunday signatures. So I cared back then, and I'm going to keep caring going forward. So if it doesn't work out now, maybe I'll try again in the future, but my heart is genuinely into this, and I want to help. I just want to help people, and it's not done out of convenience either. It's just I've just been wanting to do it for a while.
Okay. Let me tell Jim and Dan, they're two new members here.
Sure.
So upon Dawn not filing her paperwork for reinstatement to the village board, it left open a vacancy. Unaware, even myself, clerk treasurer, Nathan, we didn't even know that this happened. Unfortunately, Luke collected his signatures on a Sunday, which disqualified him for running in that seat. So,
I was aware.
Okay, wasn't sure if you were aware, but,
Yeah, I brought them with me.
yeah.
I got.
So,
I kept
I'm glad you
them.
brought that up, so thank you for bringing it to light.
Yeah.
Again, the table's yours, we have some time remaining, so.
I mean, I got a really good business background at Pierce and Oshkosh Defense. I do project management there. I've been responsible for several product lines. I was a regional sales manager at Pierce for the Northeast and all of Canada, so a lot of responsibility there. I've worked in tough situations where second shift is quarreling with first shift when I first started there, and sometimes you got to be willing to compromise and hear people out. So some of those basic soft skills that people should have, I believe I've learned a lot of that in the business world. When I left high school, I went to school to be a car mechanic just because I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I liked working on cars. And as I began to get more exposed to the world and the way the world works and business and things along those lines, I ultimately went back to school and got a bachelor's degree and finished it last year. I'm 32 years old, and it's challenging, you know, to be in your late 20s, early 30s and go back to school, get a bachelor's degree. But I thought it was the right thing to do. So, you know, I'm willing to put the hard work in on the village board as well, based off my previous track record.
What is your degree in now?
Business management.
Okay.
And I transferred down to Oshkosh Defense back in January. So I'm in a new role. It's going very well. I like working for the company.
You should do a master's degree in your 40s.
I'm thinking about starting it here pretty quick too.
Do it as soon as you can.
I know.
It gets harder
Time
every
gets
year.
tougher. But yeah, I mean, I put a lot of hard work into the house on Bear Street. It took me 2 years to do that. You know, had to finish up some loose ends of the previous owner, but I plan on having a family up there at some point in the near future.
Good for you. Okay, you are welcome. Like I said, if you want to listen to it, it's an open session.
Okay.
So the reason we kept you in the hallway is because we wanted you to come into the session not knowing the questions
Oh,
ahead
yeah.
of time. So
Totally can understand
you're
that.
welcome to listen to the rest of the candidates if you so choose. We have an hour and 15 minutes remaining of that yet. 2 of them will be on phones. Otherwise, you're free to go. We're going to be in touch one way or the other.
Okay.
We're gonna go into a closed session tonight at 7 o'clock to discuss all the candidates. Hopefully the village board can come up with a few that they may want to pursue further, and that would be a Thursday night decision, so.
All right. I appreciate you guys letting me talk in front of you, and we'll go from there.
Thanks.
Lee.
Thank you.
We got about 4 minutes if anybody wants to step out, bathroom, water, or keep going ahead of schedule. Vicky's here. Next one is Brian Metz. Okay. Keep chugging along. See if she's here. Okay. guys doing?
Hi, Brian.
All right, Brian, so we're a little bit ahead of schedule. We're just gonna, we're gonna still limit it to 15 minutes, so we're starting on the 20, or on the 8th, so on the 40.
Sounds good.
So what we have here is the village board in front of you. 6 questions. I'll ask the 7th question. Just looking for your answer, how you relate to them. Real simple. And then what the village is going to do is we're going to have a discussion at 7 o'clock tonight. That'll be a closed session. We want to narrow it down to potentially 2 possible candidates that they can take to the discussion on Thursday night, which is the village board meeting, and potentially move forward with a village trustee at a recommendation. So one way or the other, we start with 8. We want to get it down to 2.
Okay.
Okay? Yes, sir.
Welcome, Brian.
Hey,
You look familiar. You've been in this room before, haven't you?
I have.
First question, tell the panel a little bit about yourself, where you reside in Hortonville, things you'd like to do in Hortonville, and why you would like to be a member of the village board.
Sure, so I reside at 801 Michael Richter Street. I was born and raised in Hortonville. I currently moved back. I've been at that residence for the last 3 years, a little over. Previous to that, I was just down the street. Did live in Dale for a while. What I like doing in Hortonville, I volunteer a lot. I coach a lot of baseball. I coach not in basketball, but my other son will be going back to basketball. I'm involved heavily in the community and trying to make it better. Other things I like to do, I recently moved churches, but I also was a member of Church Finance Council at St. Peter and Paul before I left that church and moved on to another. But again, born and bred here, I really enjoy Hortonville. My goal is to make it better. That's why I participate and volunteer. I recently joined the Hortonville Youth Sports Board, again, to try and make the community better, a better place for our children to be raised and just a better community. So that's really why I'm looking to join the board. I feel that through the years, things didn't necessarily go in the proper ways. I feel some new looks on the board and just more honesty and just a different approach would be better. I value this community and I want to continue it to be a place where people want to reside.
Okay.
Okay, number 2. Hortonville is often measured on successes or failures. What are examples of success or a shortfall you have observed in Hortonville this past year?
So I would say a success / failure. I was recently involved with this road construction of the extension of Michael Richter. The failure end of it was initially how it was approached and how the board went about it. There wasn't a lot of communication done through the people involved. A lot of the community members felt that this was a dictation to them and there really wasn't a voice and people didn't listen to it. It ended up being, I feel, into a successful mode. We eventually, our voices were heard with some help from other members. The board got a voice of the community to be heard. We formed a group to help come to a consensus to make it, I'll say, a win-win, something that the village wanted, but also something that the village residents could live with. I, along with Jim, was part of that group to work with the board, and we worked out that ended agreement to make it a successful endeavor for both parties, basically.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What is your vision for the village of Hortonville, and where do you see it going?
So I really would like to see the community continue to grow. Right now, we have finally growing residentially, but it is a community that people haven't really been flocking to. Finally, people are starting to be part of that community. I believe that we have to offer more to the community, make it a more affordable community to work in. I believe keeping, you know, the feel of a small town is important. That's why the people that live here want to live here. It's a safe community. It's a place where people want to be. But the cost in living in this community is rather high, and it drives a lot of people out. So I think bringing some more businesses in to the community and branching out, looking forward in the future and have that plan laid out so that people will start to pull into this community. I think we need to broaden out too by potential annexations and stuff to make the community a little bit bigger, but I guess that's my vision.
Thank you.
Hey, Brandon. So question number 4. Morals, ethics, and transparency all play into public government. Explain to the village board why these traits are important to good governance.
Yeah, I would agree fully with that. You know, if I believe morals and ethics play hand in hand. If one doesn't have high morals, your ethics are going to be pretty much rock bottom. People have to be able to trust and believe in their government. You want to believe that morally people are going to be doing the right things. We entrust from whether it's at this level, a village, or any type of governance, you're expecting your leaders to have that high moral standard and that their values are, you know, in line with oneself, assuming that you yourself have good morals and values and ethics. Ethics, if you don't have ethics, you know, there's going to be a lot of shadiness going on. There's going to be mistrust. No one's going to want to deal with anyone on the governing bodies, and they're never going to be able to trust you. So again, I feel they go hand in hand. You must have high morals and high ethics value to be a leader.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Number 5, if you received $1 million grant to use for the village in any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I definitely can say it seems a little minute thing, but the overall upkeep, while it's getting better, but the general condition of the village is in a little bit of disrepair. We could definitely use some funds to go to just general things like roads and sidewalks and, you know, just the general appearance. I said I have seen some differences already happening, but we definitely need more. You know, I think there needs to be something more for the community. It'd be nice to maybe give a little more value in the park system, and or potentially do something better with the Black Otter Lake. You know, it's just something that doesn't, it's a pride of our community, but yet it doesn't get used the way it could possibly get used due to a lot of issues. We used it a lot when I was growing up, but I don't know. I don't think people really swim in it anymore or anything. So, you know, and it's always nice to have some foundations to help village residents. Setting up some foundations for the people in need within the community, I think that's excellent money spent. You know, there's always people within our community that can use a helping hand, and if the village was able to do that, that would be great to set up some things like that. $1 million, it seems like a lot. It goes pretty quick, so you know, it would have to be maybe looking at potentially leveraging some businesses to come into the community to help bring that cost expenditure down within to essentially lower tax levels, et cetera, within the community. We need more businesses to help offset that.
Brian, I'm Danny Tidlow. I have a hypothetical question for you. If you were seated with your family or friends ready to eat a meal, and a frustrated resident of Hortonville approaches you with a concern, what's your course of action?
Well, I guess it depends on the level of frustration. You know, if it's a cordial event, I might be able to address them right there. I never have a problem. Like I said, I'm involved in so many things in my business life. I'm on 24/7, so I address the issues at hand. Obviously, if it's at a higher level, I would pull away from my family so they don't necessarily have to see that type of exchange. As long as it was a cordial event, I wouldn't have any problem discussing around my family. But again, it just depends on the level of, if a person's upset or whatever, then I would just ask to either pull the conversation aside and discuss it, and or, you know, hey, can I give you a call later on, or can we meet up and talk further about this?
Okay.
I get the last one. You got about 4 minutes left.
All right.
Okay. So this is a simple one. Make a lasting impression. Use the remaining 4 minutes to tell the village board why you'd be the best choice to fill this vacancy.
Okay. I feel I'd be one of the best candidates. I have a lot involved in this community. As I said, I'm 44 years invested, more or less, in this community. I already volunteer continuously within this community. I show that I want to make this community better, not only for the village residents, but for the children that are coming up, to try and keep them in this area, or at least this community. From a personal business life, I bring a lot to the table. I currently I manage an operation. You know, I basically manage sales of 110 million. I manage over 100 people. I bring a lot to the table. I know how to, what's important, what's not, what needs to, there's always give and take, and through budgets and analysis, things come up, and you know, you have to go to the table and understand what we're going to potentially sacrifice and move forward with. So again, I feel I'm also a people person. I want to hear everyone's input, and I take that in, and I don't just take things as just because, you know, you always analyze the situation at hand. So if something comes up, we made a decision maybe 5 years ago, and we don't address it till 5 years down the road, I think it takes due diligence to re-examine that situation and see if it's prudent to move forward with those decisions that were made prior.
Okay. Anything else?
That's about it.
Okay.
That's good enough.
Well, we got about 2 minutes, so I just want to let you know. So again, you are welcome. This is an open session. The reason we held you in the office, or in the entranceway, so you didn't hear the questions prematurely.
Sure.
So you are welcome. There are 4 other candidates, two in person. 2 will be doing a phone interview because they're out of town.
Okay.
Unfortunately, so that's your call if you want to stay or not. Not required, obviously. The village board is going to try to have a discussion for after these sessions.
Sure.
Get it narrowed down, hopefully 2, and then either way we'll be in touch.
All right. Appreciate your time, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
Dave, I'm gonna take that one offer.
Doesn't seem to make sense, does it?
All right, so we're going to call Shauna here.
My drive. My drive. You pretty much can take a right. Yeah.
Same thing with county shop.
Yeah. Just-
Everybody hear that okay? So far?
Hope so.
Shauna, David Detroit calling.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi.
Good.
Good, how are you?
Good. I have you on speakerphone, just so you're aware. There are the 6 village board members are in front of me, and then we have a court reporter, a newspaper reporter, and then 3 spectators, and because it is an open session questionnaire, okay?
Okay.
So we have 7 questions. What we've been doing for the other candidates is having the village board ask them. But because we're on a phone call here, I'm gonna ask the questions, and they may chime in with additional comments or questions if needed, okay?
Okay.
And we're gonna try to stick to the 15-minute timeline, and then we'll open it up to you at the end, okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, so I did share with them the letter you sent in, okay?
Okay.
So, question number 1. Tell the panel a bit about yourself, where you reside in the village, things you'd like to do in Hortonville, and why you would like to be a village board member.
I live at 235 South Mill Street in Hortonville, about a block down from Blackwater and the old grocery store, Donaldson's now. I have 2 kids, twin 3-year-olds, and my husband, who is right there on 235 South Mill. We spend a lot of time at the parks. We go to the homecoming, what was the chocolate fest. My nieces live in town as well, so they play ball at the ballpark. I'm currently working with a team to plan our 20-year class reunion, which we're trying to base in Hortonville as well. Get all of our catering and such is all going to try to be local businesses. What was the other question?
Why would you like to be a member of the village board?
I really just want to start having a part in understanding where the village is going, helping to bring back some of the things that I remember from my childhood, creating an environment for my kids that I enjoyed growing up and that I think made me the person that I am today, while also making the village progress and become better, but without losing that small town charm that I think is really, really sweet about Hortonville. I did work at Charlie's Place growing up, and up until last year I actually still worked there part-time. So I feel like I'm pretty at least ingrained and active in the village as far as utilizing the services. I mean, we frequent a lot of the businesses in town. Donaldson's I probably visit more frequently than most, but I just really want to have a part in making Hortonville the best that it can be.
Okay, thank you. Question 2 here. Hortonville is often measured on successes or failures. What are examples of a success and or a shortfall you have observed in Hortonville this past year?
Most recently for me, and I know this wasn't it's specific to me. I live on Mill Street where we recently redid those roads, and when the bridge went out, there was a lot of traffic and heavy traffic going down our road. And although it wasn't set up as being the bypass, it was not a good setup for us. There was just a ton of traffic. Getting out of my driveway every day was problematic for sure. As far as a win for the village, honestly, I just really love the community events and the fact that people have a say in the village and what goes on. So the fact that things are communicated the way that they are, all the offerings that are being put out and managed by the administrative group, I just think is really a great thing.
Okay, thank you. With that question, you hit on it before a little bit. What do you see is your vision for the village of Hortonville, or where do you see it going?
With things going on with Greenville trying to become incorporated, I think it'd be great if we could get ahead of that and make sure that we're not losing our place as a village ourselves. So we're not getting eaten up and taken over by Greenville. I mean, Greenville is a very fast-growing place, but Hortonville has a different characteristic. So I would like to be a part of making sure that we maintain ourselves as a village and don't get lost in the Greenville mess.
Okay. Question 4, morals, ethics, and transparency all play into public government. Explain to the village board why these traits are important to good governance.
I'm going to give an example for the company that I actually work for is why that's important. I mean, not just for governance, but as a whole. One, you know, with a job or I was working for a publicly traded company, and for government, these are elected positions or positions that we're not looking to better ourselves, we're looking to better the village. Same with my job with a publicly traded company. So, you know, it's not our job to make ourselves better. It's to do what's best for the company and what's best for shareholders. So, you know, as far as a character trait and ethics, we had fraud in our company, and I was among one of the 3 whistleblowers. And that was quite an overwhelming task to go and sit in front of the SEC and do all of that. But I think that, you know, those ethics and those morals are important, whether it's personal, as a government official. I mean, it defines life. I mean, it's what you need to do. And as a government official, especially elected government officials, it's important that we're making sure that we're doing what's best for the community and for the people, not for our own personal gain.
Okay. Question 5. If you received $1 million grant to use for the village any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
I think that Blackwater Lake needs some help, for sure. I think that the parks and recreation area could use some help. I see Hortonville gaining a lot more, you know, younger families with the subdivisions coming in, and I think that we need to start working towards getting those folks involved and wanting to be a part of the local community. And some of our best assets are our parks and our lake.
Okay. You're doing good on time, just so you know, we're just short of 8 minutes into it, okay?
Okay.
Question 6 is hypothetical. If you're seated with your family or friends ready to eat a meal, and a frustrated resident of Hortonville approaches you with a concern, what course of action do you take?
Obviously, you wouldn't want to cause a scene. I think that it's important to address that person's concerns, but I think that it's equally important to make sure that it is taken outside of a public area. So, for instance, if I was at a restaurant, I would want to go outside, make sure I have a discussion, make sure that the person feels that they're being heard, take their concerns, and then ensure that you follow up with them. You know, bring it to the board's attention, review what we can. I mean, I know that we're limited as members of the board on providing information. You know, not all information is open to the public. So it comes down to taking their concerns, making sure they feel validated, and making sure you follow through and get back with them and provide the answers that they need. Someone within the group provides the answers that they need.
Okay, thank you for that. Last question is actually not a question. The way it's phrased is, make a lasting impression. Use the remaining time, which is about 5.5 minutes. You don't have to use it all, but use the remaining time to tell the village board why you would be the best choice to fill this vacancy.
Okay. I think a lot of that is summed up in my letter, but I have been a member of Hortonville for most of my life, and I have really enjoyed all the things that I experienced as a child, and the why I chose to move to Hortonville with my family and start my family here. I think that it has a lot to offer as residents. I think that we have made great strides in becoming a better community, and I think that it's very apparent that we have a sense of community, which not all, you know, places have. When the tornado went through, people helping people, and I just don't see that happening in places. I want to be a part of that. I want to be part of making it a place that I'm proud to have my kids. I want to make sure that others want to come here, and that brings in revenue for our location, and it brings in more business, and it brings in more possibilities. So I want to just be a part of the group that helps make that happen and make us the strongest community that we can, financially, morally, and I guess emotionally.
Okay. Anything else you want to add? We have approximately 3.5 minutes left.
Not unless there are any questions.
Anything from the board?
Was she, under the answer to the first one, she said she would like to bring back things from her childhood that she experienced in.
Anything specific from your childhood you'd like to bring back is what was asked.
I think, to be honest, I'm really happy to hear that the Chocolate Fest is now back to the homecoming. There were the rec program. You know, I guess I haven't been as involved in the rec program, obviously, since I'm an adult. But now that my kids are getting to the age, I really just want to make sure that those things stay. I really enjoyed like the fireman's dance and the fireworks that we used to have, those types of things. And I realize that there's liabilities and there's insurance issues, and there's cost to that. I get all that. But I think if we can continue to move toward having those types of community events, I really look forward to having that for not only my kids, but for new people bringing, you know, for coming into the community, because I think that is a big draw. And when you get people to come, that's money.
Okay. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're doing yet. We have 2 more candidates after you this evening, and then at 7 o'clock we are going to take this panel into closed session to have a discussion. The intent is to pick 2 candidates, potentially move forward on Thursday with a vote in the village board meeting with who they feel might be the best candidate. So it would take a majority vote to install a candidate on Thursday night. So one way or the other, we will be in touch. And again, we just thank you for your call today, and thank you for taking the time to visit with us and answer these questions.
Yeah, thank you for accommodating my being out of town for work today. I really appreciate that.
Not a problem. Thank you. Anything else from the board?
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Sean.
Thank
You
you.
bet. Have a good night. Enjoy your
Have a
night.
good evening. Happy deliberating.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye now. Okay.
Ellsworth. It'll fill it.
Oh, it's already. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Thumb it on the highway.
Sit here, because Dave's speakerphone in the next one too.
Or do
because-
we-
If it's all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Scott's gonna go to
Yep.
the 100-degree town hall.
Oh, boy. I gotta go out there yet too.
Storm out there, yeah.
Save me a seat. How's that?
Yeah.
I doubt that'll happen.
Open the
They got their, last time we were out there, the wood burner crate.
Oh, man.
It was hot.
I've been in a couple meetings in there.
So there's
Hot.
phone interview left in person, I believe.
I was before the conversation.
That's right.
So I'll.
Yeah.
Well, what's so tough they had
It's
it?
actually-
What's the-
It is.
Tester.
I was there in the winter.
Yeah.
Because they just can't
Two
control
finalists.
it, you know,
No,
if you light up a fire, it is what it is, like a fire too, and you get that blast, and it'll make the living room hotter than heck, and then the rest of the house like freezing cold,
But it is a
you know,
cool building.
because the thermostat's not telling the furnace to kick in for everything else, so.
Yeah. We don't.
Turn that fan on.
We
Oh, yeah?
Plus, I would go straight there
So-
before it gets filled up.
I wish we did.
Get us a meeting in New London, and Scott was gracious
I would
enough
love
to.
to.
How's the water
7 degrees
situation?
worth of-
They
to the
did
back,
they
yeah.
made
Getting down there
special
finally?
fans just to-
We, first time in 30 years that I've worked there, that we had sandbagging.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was coming right up by you.
You were surrounded, weren't you?
Yeah.
On 3 sides.
Okay, yeah.
You were almost
And I
an
don't think
island.
anyone-
On Wednesday morning, there
Next
were
month,
65
because I always feel
sturgeons
like-
spawning on the trail behind the shop, and they knocked over a sandbag
You're
about 6.5
kidding
foot.
me.
Right there, you know.
And
Yeah.
the water was up
Like
to
some
the
13-year-old
sandbag
boys
high, and
downstairs and they
this
could-
rambunctious sturgeon
Yeah, I
ran
mean, they'll be-
into a sandbag and knocked it over, and I had to go out there in the night
spitball
with my boots to
Let's
fix
throw
it,
something
because the
at
water was starting to.
Let's see what color this is.
And
And
how
the thing
many,
is, like,
how many
really
have
tiny,
spawned
I
on
Oh.
areas where it's really
I'm just
died,
doing
you
a
think?
waffle thing.
Ready to go here.
Hello?
Is this Ellsworth?
Yes, it is.
David Detroit, Village Administrator, Hortonville.
Hi, David, how are you?
I'm good. Are you in a good spot to answer a few questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what you're amongst 6 village board members in front of me. We have a press reporter and 3 people in the audience because it is an open session. Okay, we had been handing off the questions to the village board members, but because it's easier on the phone, I'm just gonna ask the questions and then they'll chime in if they have anything extra that they'd wanna ask, okay? We're gonna try to keep it to 15 minutes to keep it on a time schedule. We have one more person after you, okay?
Okay.
Sounds good. Can everybody hear okay? Okay, everybody hearing you fine. Question 1. Tell the panel a bit about yourself, where you reside in the village, and things you'd like to do in Hortonville, and also why you want to be a village board member.
I'm 38, married. We have 4 kids. One daughter graduated already. She's at Stevens Point. And we have a daughter in 9th grade now. And we live on Honeysuckle Drive. Been in Hortonville about 10 years now. Originally from the UP. Guess I want to be a board member. I'm interested in politics. I'm concerned about the village and where it's headed, and we want to stay in the village. If I'm gonna complain about stuff, I guess I'd rather be involved in it than just sitting on the sidelines complaining.
Okay. Hortonville is often measured on successes or failures. What are examples of success and or a shortfall you have observed in Hortonville this past year?
I guess success is bringing in, Dollar General and stuff like that. But I personally believe that a little bit of both. I think Hortonville should be striving to bring in jobs that can support living in the community. I mean, we have a higher end community that costs a lot more to live in than a lot of other places. And I don't see we have the jobs that support living in the community. So I think a lot of people that live in the community drive to other places to work. And it would be nice to see more jobs that can, with that type of income instead of lower paying jobs. So I guess my opinion is it's good to have jobs, but it'd be nice to see some more higher end jobs coming in the community.
Okay. You kind of touched on it in the first question. What is your vision for the village of Hortonville, and where do you see it going?
I see Hortonville growing. I mean, just in my area of Honeysuckle Drive, I mean, we have right now probably 4 or 5 houses going up. It concerns me a little bit, all of the new houses we're building. I mean, the economy's been good for a while now, but eventually it's going to hiccup. And there's only so many jobs that are going to be left to support the incomes needed to live in these houses. And it worries me what happens when we do have a hiccup and how many empty houses are sitting around. And it worries me that we're going to be spending too much tax money that eventually it's going to dry up and it's going to be a hard time for Hortonville for a while until things get going again.
Okay. Question 4. Morals, ethics, transparency all play in the public government. Explain to the village board why these traits are important to good governance.
I think it's important because if you're going to have an opinion and do stuff that affects other people's lives other than your own, you should be able to stand up and answer for what you're doing. And if you're going to hide behind closed doors, and you deserve the criticism that you get or the praise you don't get.
Okay.
Is that your answer?
Yeah, I mean, that's, any further discussion on transparency?
I think everything should be transparent. I mean, if legally it should be transparent, you should, when you're gonna do something, you should stand there and say, this is what we're doing and why we're doing it, and not be afraid of the backlash.
Okay. Question 5 seems to be a popular question tonight. If you received $1 million grant for the village to use any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
I guess I would invest it in a lot in parks and recreations to keep families coming to Hortonville. And there's not a lot of stuff to do in Hortonville. I mean, with our kids, we're constantly driving to Appleton for them to go places and do stuff. And, I mean, other than park and rec, and now my kid's the youngest, 14. And for 14-year-olds, there's not a whole lot to do in Hortonville.
Okay.
So I wouldn't mind seeing more, like I thought the ice rink was put in. I grew up in Estrella, Michigan, where winter sports were a big deal, and every park in the city had flooded the baseball diamond every year, and there was ice skating rinks and hockey rinks. It's probably a little dangerous, but I thought it was good to give kids something to do. I don't know how much use it got, but it was nice to see something like that.
Okay. Just so you know, we're doing good on time. You're just creeping up on the 7-minute mark. Okay.
Okay.
Hypothetical question. If you're seated with your family and or friends ready to eat a meal and a frustrated resident of Hortonville approaches you with a concern, what course of action do you take?
I guess the level of frustration would dictate whether, I would, if possible, step aside and go somewhere more privately if they really wanted to vent. I wouldn't want to make a scene or anything, but if that was an option, I would do that, or, otherwise, invite them down to a meeting and address their concerns there, or, give them my email or phone number and talk to them at a later date about it, but probably try to de-escalate the situation as much as possible.
Okay. Like I said, we're going on 8 minutes here, so the last question isn't a question. In fact, it's make a lasting impression. Use the remaining time to tell the village board why you would be the best choice to fill this vacancy.
I guess right now, there's, as an outsider of Hortonville, we've been there 10 years, but we're not, we don't have family ties in Hortonville and stuff like that. And I know from people I know in Hortonville, they think it's, a lot of nepotism and real, certain families run Hortonville. I'm sure everybody hears it and stuff, but I think it'd be a nice outside choice. I'm young enough to stick around for a while, and I want to be involved in my community and help guide decisions that I think are right. Decisions the board makes as a group, stand behind them. And, I think as a village, not being able to raise, the state freezing levy limits, it could get really tight if the economy were to have another hiccup. And I think the importance of local control for the municipalities to make decisions is important. And with the TIF zone, I want to make sure the TIF's being used right, and there's a lot of fiscal responsibility and heavy vetting on what goes in the TIF areas. I guess one of the things I didn't like was storage units going. I think the storage units went up in the TIF zone. There's no real improvement there. It's just somebody's paying taxes on the land now, but I think jobs are more important than just buildings for the community.
You good on time yet? You got it. We just touched 10 minutes here.
Okay. discussion. I enjoy the banter of it all. I mean, no matter what side you're on, people can disagree, but in the end, I think both sides want the same thing. They just have different ideas on how to get there, and I enjoy hearing different opinions on a lot of things.
Okay. Any other discussion from the board? Any other input or comments? Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'd like to thank the board for their time, and I hope they make a good decision, and hope everything works out for Hortonville.
Okay, well, thank you for the call. The process is not over. We have one more candidate yet tonight. At that point, we'll go into closed session. We're gonna try to take 8 candidates down to 2. Those candidates will be proposed potentially on Thursday night in front of the village board meeting. One way or the other, I'll be in contact with you to let you know where you stand in the process, okay?
All right, sounds good.
Appreciate the call. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Thank you. We have a candidate here, John, so we're gonna pull the table back now. 'Cause that was the last, we got one more in-person candidate now. You all wanna go back to question asking again? Is that fine?
So,
I can sit right back here.
Yeah.
You're just looking at you, come up with an impression.
Like, we named our daughter Grace.
That's why it's nice to see the faces.
Before
Yeah.
Grace was like a
Okay,
popular name.
it's,
But she's named after Amazing Grace, which is my mother's
Hold on, Nate.
song and long time.
Garth.
Eric. Yep.
Garth.
And,
Yeah.
he left the hospital.
Garthus.
Garthus.
G-A-R-T-H-U-S.
So it's funny how you pick a name.
I'll give you a copy
and
of
then
this,
you have
John.
a name.
Yeah, big one.
Thanks, yeah.
Hi.
Hi, Eric. Dave Detroit.
Hi.
Administrator. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Have a seat.
All right.
What we have is the 6 village board members. They're all identified by their names, okay? Series of questions they're gonna ask you. I'm gonna follow up with the last question, and then, like I said, it's 15 minutes. We're gonna try to stick to the timeline here. The process is, it is an open session questionnaire, so we have members of the press here. It is being recorded. It will be going out. After this, you're the last person tonight of 8.
Okay.
So, what we'll do is go into closed session at 7 o'clock. We'll have a discussion, hopefully narrow it down from 8 to 2. That would go to a village board decision on Thursday night.
Okay.
Okay?
Eric, I'm Peter, welcome. Let's start out with question 1. Tell the panel a little bit about yourself, where you live in the village, things you'd like to do in Hortonville, and why you would like to be a member of the village board.
Well, I've been in Hortonville for 16 years now, so I guess I'm still a new guy. So I wasn't born and raised here. But we live up on Honeysuckle Drive, pretty close to the Mishkers. I got 2 kids that are in middle school and high school, so pretty involved in their activities. Also like to do a lot of fishing, so that keeps me around on the river, and hunting as well. The reason I'd like to be on the board, I would like to do something to give back to the community and help. I've gone to a few meetings over the years, and I guess I really feel like being involved in government at the local level is really impactful. Really good way to help make a difference.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay. Question 2. Hortonville is often measured on successes or failures. What are examples of a success and or a shortfall you have observed in Hortonville this past year?
Well, I would say living up where I do on the south side of town there, I've really noticed the large number of new construction that's been happening in the village, and I think that's really positive to broaden our tax base. both from, you know, a tax perspective and then also the water perspective, to try to spread that out, you know, among as many households as possible. So I think it's really important to get the density of the village as, you know, as high as we can get it, fill all those vacant lots. Not in the last year, but you know, certainly one of the things that's been on my mind is the issue with the fund for the water. That's something that I would personally like to be involved in if I were on the board, is you know, figuring out the best plan to try to pay up that bond or that fund, that reserve fund, you know, as quickly as possible, and then hopefully see water rates decrease back to, you know, a more normal level at some point in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What is your vision for the village of Hortonville, and where do you see it going?
Well, I would say, you know, like I stated earlier, certainly having all the vacant lots filled with new construction would be, you know, an ideal scenario. I think a couple of the things that I really have liked since I've moved here, you know, our new grocery store, the strip mall next to it, you know, so building some more businesses, and then again, you know, the amount of construction that's gone on, you know, specifically up in my neighborhood after not seeing much of anything for probably 10 years up there. It's really exploded. So I really like the direction that the village is headed right now. I think we're really becoming a, you know, a destination from, you know, folks that even say live or work in Appleton and, you know, want to live in a nice, safe community. I think we're really becoming a good destination for people like that. So I think whatever we can do, you know, whether it's supporting our schools or you know, making sure that our village is safe, trying to keep our taxes low, any of those types of things that we can do to help attract people to come join our village would be good.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Morals, ethics, and transparency all play into public government. Explain to the village board why these traits are important to good governance.
Well, I think you know, it's important that everyone in the village trusts their leaders, and that you can have an open, you know, discussion about any topic. It doesn't mean that we always have to agree, but we should at least be able to, you know, discuss it in a civil manner. And at the end of the day, sometimes there's going to be decisions that are going to be made that not everybody's going to agree with, but we have to make some decision and move forward. And I think as long as, you know, folks have that trust and don't feel that there's ulterior motives at play, I would hope that, you know, that they at least feel comfortable that their village leaders are doing, you know, the best job that they can to make those decisions.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you received $1 million grant to use for the village any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why?
Oh boy. I think I would like to do something. I think the lake is an underutilized asset in our village. It'd be nice if we could do something to try to develop more of that area around the lake, whether it's for, you know, recreation. So I don't know if we could potentially ever look at, you know, some sort of a dredging type project for a swimming area, something like that. Or it would be ideal if, although they just stuck a bunch of money into their building, so I'm sure their MidCon isn't going to want to move to the canning factory, but, you know, at one time I know there was talk about them moving to the canning factory location, which would free up a nice, you know, a nice area adjacent to the parks on the lake. So I think something around that waterway.
Oh, I'm Dan. I have a hypothetical question for you. If you were seated with your family or friends, ready to eat a meal, and a frustrated resident of Hortonville approached you with a concern, what would your course of action, or what course of action would you take?
Well, I think I would certainly, first of all, acknowledge the concern. I'd like to talk with the person and see what the concern is and see if it's something that could be resolved in a few minutes, or, if not, maybe we could get a time put together to meet and discuss it later. Definitely would be interested in hearing what the person had to say. Not sure I'd want to miss dinner with my family over it, so.
Okay, good, okay. We're on 8 minutes right now, so we have about 7 minutes left, okay? Make a lasting impression. Use the remaining time to tell the village board why you would be the best choice to fill this vacancy.
Okay. Well, I think, one of the things that I really pride myself on is being a real analytical person and thinker. I think a lot of times really understanding a problem, and not just reacting based on gut instinct is important. So I really like to understand both sides of the issue, understand where folks' motivations are coming from that are on either side of an issue, and then ultimately trying to bring people together. I think that is one of the things that's often missing in our politics today, is the fact that we need to get things done, whether we agree in principle or not. We need to make a decision, and we need to try to make the best decision for the community and move forward. So I would hope that I could really be a champion of that, and working with folks and trying to really build on the common ground and come to decisions that are beneficial for the community.
Okay, any other comments from the village board, or for you to the village board?
I don't.
Okay.
Thank you for the time.
Absolutely.
Thank
Like
you
I said
for
earlier,
Thank you.
you're the last candidate tonight, so what we're gonna do is go now into discussion mode.
Okay.
And one way or the other, we'll be in touch. Hoping to get it down from 8 to 2. It would take a direct vote at a village board meeting Thursday night to install somebody.
Okay.
If that's the course of action that the village board wants to take. So I'll be in contact with all the candidates primarily tomorrow.
Okay.
So, okay.
All right.
That's all we have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. You gotta put it in there. You gotta go into closed session. I'll give you, John.
Does anyone, we have to clear the room first, and then make a motion to go into closed session?
Yeah,
Okay.
but at 7 o'clock though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we can, I mean, we don't have to keep the timeline because we're
It's
through
not
all
on
the
the agenda,
candidates.
it's
So
Yeah.
It's up to you.
it's up to you.
It's up to you.
Okay. I think we could,
You're looking for a motion?
I'll move we go into closed session.
I'll second that.
okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now you can announce it.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Yes. We're
All
typically
right, now in
five-
open
five
session.
to 7 people.
And are there any things we want to act on from closed session?
Nothing, just that we need
Nothing,
to,
just that we follow what we,
we make a recommendation that we discuss at the village board 3 candidates moving forward for a second committee of the whole meeting to be scheduled for May 7th at 6 p.m. 20-minute sessions to include questions and a written submission by the candidates.
Do you need a motion from one of us?
I would need a motion to approve that, yes.
I will make that motion.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Can we pick a time?
Aye, it's 6
Just
o'clock.
6
7
p.m.
to
on May
7.
6 o'clock on
May
the
7th.
7th.
And if there's not
And-
anything else that we need to discuss, we can have a
Actually,
motion to
one quick
adjourn.
question.
Oh, you do?
The written statements, can we get them before the 7th, so that way we can
Absolutely.
review them?
Or do you want
Instead
him
of-
to bring them, or you want him to bring them along, or?
I mean, I would probably prefer to read them you know, myself, like either, you know, maybe the day before or that even, you know, because I have to work, so that leaves me the evening before. Either that or I have to do it during work time, and I get interrupted a lot, and I can't dedicate any time, you know.
I mean, we could have, you tell me a due date when you want them submitted by, I can produce.
I guess we just need to reassure them that they'll be kept confidential.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's gonna be only to the board members.
Yeah, I would say at least by the day before.
If I could process them, get them in your hands on Monday, at some time during the day on Monday? Okay.
Yeah.
So you can give them whatever deadline, you know, before
Yeah.
that, but,
Okay.
And then do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
no hesitation.